Hey guys, it's 23. This is the Raven IRR7 by K-Tech or K-Robot. This is a really cool asset. This is basically a laser designator and also a tablet. There's a lot to go over, but I'll try to make it quick. In terms of what you'll get, there are a couple of packages that you will have to install into your project if this is the first time you're using a K-Tech product. Essentially, there are shaders that you have to install. There is the Pyomi Toon shader, there is the Mochi shader, there's also a Screen Space Uber shader that you have to install. There's Kairo's IR shader that you have to install. And there are three main packages that you have to install. There is the Authenticator. Basically, that means is that you have to verify your product before you can actually install it or even upload it. If you don't have it, it won't let you upload the asset. There is the setup tool, which is basically just a setup tool to help you set up the asset into your avatar. And then finally, the Raven package, which is basically the actual product. If you already have K-Tech's products, you probably won't need to install the Authenticator, the shaders, and also the setup tool. You'll just have to install the actual asset. But with that being said, if this is your first time using a K-Tech product, I'll show you what to do. So once you have everything installed, you have to go into the Authenticator and then add your order number into it. That way you can verify your product, then that way you can actually use the product. Once you've done that, you can now open up the setup tool, and then you have to drag your avatar into it and then select the product, in this case the Raven, and then from there all you have to do is you just press install and then go through the steps. Now what's really special about the Raven is that if you have any of K-Tech's other products, i.e. the Stratcom or the Stratagem or even the tablet or any of the standalone products like the Nuke, you can actually add it to the Raven, and then you can actually use those products with the Raven. When you start out the Raven, you can see what you can add. Basically anything air support, you can add to this. So once you selected all the products that you want to add to your Raven, you basically just set up the tool. And all that means is that you can position the laser in your hand, on your hip, and you can also scale the tablet itself so it's the right height for you. And then from there, you're pretty much done. And then now you can upload it. Once you upload it to your avatar, you'll look like this. The laser is on your hip or wherever you've placed it. I'll go through the laser first, and then I'll show you what to do with the actual tablet. So in terms of settings, in the radio menu, you'll have a button to enable the actual laser itself. There is a button so you can place it in your hand, or you can bring it back like so. There is a toggle to flip the display and the cap, and then from there you can turn on the IR laser like so. You'll have an airstrike menu. In there you have another folder for your selection. By default, Raven has three options that you can choose from. It has a HE mortar, also has a smoke mortar, and also has a flare. For now, I'll just stick to those three. Back out of the menu, we'll have an airstrike rotation. Basically what that means is that it changes the direction of where the actual airstrike will come from. This mostly applies to straight fronts, i.e. like the A10 Warthog. You can decide which way it's coming from, so it doesn't come straight towards you. So in that way you can do it perpendicular from you or just away from you. And then you have a manual airstrike. Basically you can just press it without actually having to press it manually with your right hand. Out of that and into the next menu, you'll have a MISC menu. In there's a bunch of settings, random settings that you can choose. In there you have a bounding box expander. If you don't know what a bounding box is basically a box that your avatar sits in. Basically by default your bounding box will just be enough to cover your avatar, so that way your avatar doesn't render when you're behind someone for optimization purposes. With this bounding box expander, you're basically expanding that box so you're rendering behind someone or even somewhere, that's far away. So on their side, you're actually rendered, you're actually, in the world. And this helps for syncing and also making sure that people can actually know what you're doing when they're like super far away and stuff like that. I hope that makes sense. There is a enable depth, which I actually don't know what that is. There is a IR white mode. There is a IR always visible mode. Basically that means is that if it's on, you can see the laser like so. If it's not on, you can't see it, but on the camera you can still see it, so that basically you can only see it and you can only see where it is through the camera. So I guess, being a little bit sneaky and trying to airstrike a position without them knowing, you can do that. There is an IR gain level, basically that increases the brightness. There is an IR strength. The best way I can describe it is that it basically gets rid of shadows, and also it kind of looks like there's a big light above you that shines down, that illuminates the ground. It kind of looks like that, but you can only see it through the actual screen, so you can't see it through your eyes. And then finally you'll have an airstrike gesture selection off. Basically if it's on, you can cycle through your airstrikes with gestures. If it's off, you can't do that. So that's the radio menu. I'll show you how to actually use it with your gestures and controllers. So to grab it from your person, you have to do a fist plus the trigger, so squeeze the trigger, like so. If you want to open up the screen and the cap, you have to do the same with your left hand, a fist plus the trigger, place a hand near the screen, like so. You can open it up, like so. And then you can also do the same with the cap, like so. If you want to turn on the laser, you'll have to do a fist plus the trigger with your right hand, like so. To cycle forward with the airstrikes, you will have to do a piece. If you want to go backwards, you have to do a rock and roll, like so. If you want to zoom in, you have to place your left hand above the laser, like so. And then you have to do a fist and a trigger, like so. If you want to rotate the airstrike angle, you have to do the same, a fist and the trigger above the laser, but you have to hold it. And then it will rotate slowly. It will only rotate clockwise. Once you selected the airstrike that you want and you want to launch it, you basically point where you want it to go, and then you have to do a fist plus the trigger, and you have to hold it for about 5 seconds. So I point where I wanted to go, I'll hold the trigger, it will do a countdown for 3 seconds, and then it'll launch it. Like so. There is a cooldown, so you can't immediately shoot another one. There's about a 10 or 20 second wait time in order to shoot another one. A side note with the laser, the strike zone will be about roughly when it stops the countdown. Another thing is that if you paint a target and then quickly swipe away, it would actually cut off the timer. So to demonstrate, if I paint the same target, wait for the countdown, and then quickly swipe away, it will just cut off, like so. So I'll do it again. If I paint the target, I do the countdown, if I slowly drift away, it should land roughly where you last painted. About there. So just for reference, I painted there and then I slowly painted towards this small rock. And then it landed there. Does that make sense? And with that being said, if you're moving and you're trying to paint a target, it won't work. Just, you have to be stationary and then point and then stand still, and then it will work. Once you're done with the laser, you have to close the screen and the cap, and then now you can put it away. You'll have to do a thumbs up and put it away like so. Now I'll show you how to use the tablet. With the tablet, there are more settings in the radio menu that I'll go over quickly. So first you will have a world place menu. In there you'll have a place down, which is basically where you want to assign or place the actual tablet. In this case, I'll place it here. There was another button that you have to place called is placed, and you have to press that, and then you can place it like so. I'll bring it a little closer. Once you placed it, you can turn off the place down like so. There's also a toggle for force local. Basically, you just force it to where it actually is. Out of that menu into the next menu, you have this same airstrike menu. In there, you have all your options to choose from. Back out of there, you have a desktop control. Basically, in there, you can control the tablet via the radio menu without actually having to press any of these buttons. So in there, you have the IR tilt, like so. You have a IR rotation, like so. You have a power button, like so. You have a camera button, like so. And you also have a IR button, like so. You have the same airstrike rotation. So if you can see closely there, you can rotate the actual rotation. And then you also have a manual airstrike button as well. Back out of there and into the next menu, you have a MISC menu again. In there you have a display world route, which I'm not too sure what that does. Next you have the IR always visible, so you can see it there. You can turn it off and you can only see it through the actual camera. Next you have an enable depth, which I also still don't know what that does. And then next you have the IR white mode, which basically just turns off the night vision setting screen thing. Yeah. So that's the radio menu. I'll show you how do you actually use it now. So the top right button is the turn on button, like so. Below that is the camera. And then on the right side, you see IR. That's to turn on the laser. The volume buttons, I don't think they actually do anything. They're just there for aesthetics. The Viz button is the IR always visible, so you can turn it off and you can still see it through the camera, like so. The code button is to turn off the actual night vision mode, like so. And then M1 doesn't do anything, at least from what I've tested, I guess. You have a A- and A+. That is to zoom in and zoom out. There is the Alt button, which basically changes it to the rotation. So you can rotate the airstrike position, rotation. Like so. There, you have a D-pad at the bottom, basically that rotates the actual device. So you can aim it up, you can aim it down, you can aim it left and right, and such and such. I'll point it at this rock here. And then you have an Air- and Air+. Basically that cycles through your airstrikes. Like so. So in this case, I will use the HE mortar. So same thing with the handheld laser. You have to press the initiate button for 3 seconds. Like so. And then it will launch the strike. Like so. Now a sign up with the tablet is that other people can actually use it. So it's not just limited to yourself. Other people can play around with it and then initiate strikes and stuff, like different airstrikes, then send them, which is I think is pretty cool. So you can set it here, and you can just wander off, and then other people can just smash it and send stuff away. I'll showcase the 3 airstrikes that you get. So the HE mortar, which is just a HE mortar. You'll have smoke, which does last pretty long, so you can smoke out an area. And finally, you have flare, which does illuminate the area pretty well, best in dark worlds. And that is pretty much it for the Raven. So pretty cool asset, I quite like it a lot. It is very fun to use, and also it actually feels really nice to actually be able to paint targets really far away and then just nuke a whole town, I guess. The actual range of the laser is pretty impressive. Basically, you can initiate strikes from one corner of the map to the other corner of the map. So I think that's pretty cool. It has to be a physical mesh or object that the laser has to hit in order to strike on that position. Which means is that if you see an object, but there's an invisible wall, you'll actually hit the invisible wall before you actually hit the actual object behind it. So do keep in mind of that, of invisible boundaries. I also think it's really cool that you can use other airstrikes that K-Tech provides, i.e. the Stratcom or the Stratagem, which I think is pretty cool because if you use the Stratcom, normally you have to get kind of close to the actual target and then throw. Then in saying that, can't throw, or you're not really good at throwing, i.e. me, you could blow yourself up. So being able to stand really far away and then paint the target and then send a 100-kilogram bomb on said target, I think that's really cool, instead of just getting close and then eating a ball over there, unless you have a really good arm. But yeah, I think this is fantastic, and I think this will be great for any LARPing, tagging events that allows for airstrikes like so. There's only really one thing I want to talk about, which is basically the setup that I had to go through. TLDR, my Mochi shader was outdated, so the actual shader for the laser and such wasn't correct. But when I updated the Mochi shader, it basically fixed everything else. That was on my part. There was also another thing that I ran into. I have the airdrop resupply unit system, which is basically the big, supply crate that you can get from K-Tech. When I tried uploading my avatar, it thought it was the supply drop instead of the, crate. So it was kind of conflicting with each other, so I couldn't upload the actual avatar because it thought it was the different supply drop. But I was in contact with Cairo, and then they were a really big help in helping my problems, and they helped me fix my problems. So thank you, Cairo. But with that being said, this is still fantastic. It's super cool. So to find this asset, you can either go to the booth page or the Gumroad page. On booth, it is listed as 3,500 yen, and on Gumroad, it is listed as 32.94 AUD. So if you like what you see, why not check this out? Okay, thank you, bye bye. Hey guys, this is Post Review. I just quickly wanted to say that the resupply crate thingy is kind of decent. I got my friends here to basically do a little theme for me, and they've been saying that the supply crate down there, they actually can't see it, even though I tried multiple times, and they can't see it. They say that the crate is opening it up and closing down, like it's disappearing then reappearing constantly for them. So they can't see it. They can hear the initiation, they can hear like the the countdown, and I think it's also the Morse code bit, but they actually can't see the ship come in and then drop off the supply crate. Yeah, so just a small little thing I want to say, because yeah, they can't see it at all down there. However, all the other stuff works for them, all the other airstrikes works for them. It's just the supply crate that doesn't seem to work, at least for them. Yeah, I just want to say that really quickly. Okay, thank you.